This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by a sponsor, as always. It is, however, a collaboration with the film The Black Mass, a true crime story about notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. Check it out now on Amazon Prime or buy it on physical media from all good retailers. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. And guys, this week we have a milestone episode. If you've been listening since the beginning, you'll know that my favorite thing to do, and the whole reason for this, is to talk to cool and interesting people about the films they love. And when I started this, it was always about, the cool and interesting people with my friends and my family. And then over time, I've managed to meet some really cool people, some podcasters, some creators, some indie filmmakers. And today is probably the biggest guest we've ever had. I'm very excited, a little bit nervous, but that's totally fine. Today's guest has been in the industry for 20 years. She is an actor, a director, a producer, a writer. She is a bona fide scream queen, appearing in all sorts of projects from Dexter and Castle to Piranha 3D, which is one of my personal favorites. And then earlier this year, or maybe a little bit earlier than that even so, she took the journey that few performers do and actually stepped behind the camera to direct her very first feature, a great little flick all about Ted Bundy called The Black Mass. Very excited to talk about it. It's one of my favorite films. I can't wait to you. Can't even talk now. Can't wait for you guys to hear all about it. Please welcome the incredible, the utterly brilliant Devanny Pinn. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And can I say that was an amazing intro? Don't be nervous, you got this shit. And you can do all of my intros from now on because that was awesome. I am ready to do this.
I don't write anything down, but I have been rehearsing it for the last 2 days.
Well, we're going to have a great time. I mean, so we've been chatting a little bit just before we started recording, and you're very easy to talk to. And I also love people who are into movies and the culture of it. And I'm a movie fan myself, so it's very, very easy to discuss and get into it and get giddy about it. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me and having an opportunity to further discuss The Black Mass.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's very, very exciting for me. And yeah, we were having a chat before. We've been chatting back and forth for the last couple of weeks or so. Because I watched The Black Mass, and I've seen you kind of promoting it for a while. We've been following each other on Instagram for a little while. And I wanted to get on the show ages ago, but I couldn't get access to the film. I'm like, I can't invite this person on the show if I haven't seen it. I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. And so it's going to be nice for her either. But now that I'm touring and traveling, I have access to it. So I finally sat down and watched it. And we're going to get into it, but it's an incredible flick. It's easily one of my favorite films I've seen this year. And just an honor to have you on the show. More honor than my house can bear, I'm afraid. But we'll make it work.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk to you.
And you're having a busy year. Obviously, The Black Mass is huge, and congratulations. First,
thank you.
If that's your debut directorial film, I can't wait to see what you do next. Most people's first films, are really good for what they are, but often lower budgets and have less means. But you really knocked it out of the park with number one. So, so you've had that. You've had a couple of horror films come out as well. I can't remember the name of the crocodile one, but there was a crocodile one, I think, which I was very excited.
Yes.
The Flood. And also you got a TV project coming up as well. Is that right?
Yes, I'm working on a TV project right now. It's still in the works, so I'm not really allowed to speak about that, but I'm looking forward to coming back on and discussing that more. I tend to do about 5 or 6 horror movies a year. I'm very, very lucky to be able to do that. And I make movies as well. So as far as my other horror movies, I had The Flag come out, which is on, oh my gosh, I don't know who's listening to this and where at this point. If you're in the States, where I am, it's on Hulu. It's a Hulu hit this year.
Yep.
But I know that it is worldwide at this point too. I also have Camp Pleasant Lake, which is just a fun, crazy slasher. And that's, if you're in the States, available on Stars. And I know some of the studios picked that up as well for other territories around the world. So those are the most widely available this year. And of course, The Black Mass, which I believe has come to the UK. That's where you found it. And it's slowly being sold throughout this year. It feels like I've been doing this forever now, talking about the Black Mass, but it really has only been a little over a year since the movie existed, since I got the
Yeah.
green light for it. We filmed it very quickly. I was greenlit. We shot it, and about 3 months later, we were premiering at March to Cannes during Cannes Film Festival. So it was a very fast turnaround. And then in February, we came out. The end of February, we came out domestically, and it's still being sold. That's how quick this has all been. Yeah, it's some of the territories. But I'm so thrilled that you got to the UK so you could watch it. Although next time, just call me and I'll send it to you. We don't have to wait.
Well, I will be honest. If I wasn't going to the trip, I would have imported it, because the other thing I'm very excited about, I'm a huge physical media fan. It's on Blu-ray, so I will be purchasing that when I get back to Australia, because I
Thank
love my
you.
physical media. And to have your movie on physical, especially like in the market right now, it's so disappointing to see that Blu-ray and DVDs are kind of being phased out. But I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
keep bringing them out, keep bringing these great films out, because I love having my physical media. So when I
it
saw
makes
that,
such a difference.
mhm,
Seriously. So you're 100% right. Physical media is kind of going away. A lot of the outlets where our films were just always available, physical stores, have either gone out of business or not carrying them anymore.
mhm,
So a lot more films are having less of an opportunity to have a physical release. So it's super important, if you are a movie fan and you like a film specifically, please purchase it on physical media. Otherwise, if there's not enough of that happening,
I
distributors,
lit-
yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
literally
For those of you
this.
who are listening, he just pulled up like two big bags of physical DVDs. So yes, we love to see it. If we want to keep that alive, we have to show up as fans and purchase what we enjoy, because otherwise distributors will, it's way cheaper and way easier for them just to throw it on VOD. And so we need to show up with our wallets in that if we want it to be a continuing thing. And I'm very, very
100%.
lucky that that our distributor was a big advocate of that. And so we are available on Blu-ray and DVD, and our soundtrack is available on CD as well.
Oh, that's cool. Like I
Yeah,
almost forgot about the movie soundtrack. That was one of my favorite things growing up as a kid. It's like, what's the soundtrack? Let's hit the soundtrack. And it feels
yeah.
like now, unless it's an event picture, they don't make a big deal about it anymore. But my favorite soundtrack when I was a kid was the Forrest Gump soundtrack. Do you know what I mean?
That's a great one,
Yeah.
actually, and it's such a good, unique movie that I feel like the soundtrack does not get the credit that it really should and deserves, because that music is so impactful. And all these years
Hmm.
later, if you hear a few notes of that initial soundtrack, that theme song,
Hmm.
everyone's taken right back down to that movie. You see the feather, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that great music is a huge contributor to a film's emotional connection and success.
Absolutely. But yeah, that was 2 of 4 bags. I keep telling people that this is a holiday for my family. For me, it's a shopping trip. I'm picking up everything that's not available in Australia, so just picking up all the Blu-rays. But when I get
That's
home,
great.
Black Mass is going into my shopping cart for sure. Um,
Love it.
Fantastic. Now, I do want to talk about Black Mass. We had a bit of a chat about it before we started. But before we do, I just want to go back in time a little bit. I always like to ask new guests about their history with film. So clearly, you're a fan. Like based on just the brief chat we've had now for the
Yeah.
recording and a couple of messages we've had on Instagram. But where does that begin for you? Are you a lifelong film fan? Did you start running around video stores as a kid? Like when does that love, that passion begin?
Yes, I think, like most fans, especially, I think we're very close in age. Our generation, I have such amazing fond memories of, every weekend going to my neighborhood video store and seeing like all the new releases and just spending hours and hours in the aisles walking up and down. And my a big chunk of my life revolved around that. Kids today, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so old. Kids today, they have all this media so easily accessible to them in real time, huge amounts with a click of a button at any moment. But, when I was growing up, you had the few channels that were available on TV, and that's it.
Hmm.
And if there's nothing great on, you just had to figure it out anyway and just sit through something. Or you got to go to the video store and, have something that you personally connected with and chose, and then you get to watch it in your real time. And that little bit of sense of control and connection was so impactful. It
Hmm.
really shaped. I was always an entertainer since the age of 2,
Hmm.
and so I really loved getting lost in stories. I loved, storytelling. I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of movies and also TV shows, but film in particular. And when I grew up, I was going to school for musical theater, and I didn't know what independent film was. I
Hmm.
didn't know that was a thing. I just thought, either you were in blockbusters or that was it.
Yeah.
And so when I came out to do college as a teenager, established residency out west where I wanted to go to school, I was looking for musical theater companies to get involved with, and I couldn't find one over the summer, but I did find an advertisement for an independent horror film. And I was
Cool.
like, what's that? And I went to kind of like morbid curiosity because I'm a very, very nosy person. And I just went in there and just like crashed this audition and just showed up. And I had spent so much time growing up studying some of my favorite films. They asked for a monologue and like didn't really know what that was. So I
Yeah.
just recited the most recent film monologue that I had, which was from Cruel Intentions. I had literally
Oh
memorized
wow.
the film. I had been studying it. Yeah. So I went in there, I did a monologue from Cruel Intentions, and they all were like, okay. And then they gave me the lead role in the film.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And from there, I did another one. And that was 20 years ago.
Mm.
So, so I've been doing it ever since. And I just could not get enough. When I got on set, I realized there was a whole nother section to learn. As a film fan, I could see what that light did. I knew what the sound did. I could see what, why people were choosing this shot and this shot. And, just there were so many elements to satisfy the entire other side of the world as a fan. I could not get enough. I
Yeah.
just was, it was the dream job, and it still is.
Yeah. Nice one. And is there someone I like to talk about? And it's a bit of like a film wanky thing to say, I guess. But I always like to talk about the gift of film. I think that film, when you recommend a film to someone, it's such a personal thing. I'm not saying, oh, go check out Avengers, it's great. I'm saying like, hey, I know you. I know what you like. I've seen this
Yeah.
film. You need to check it out. Like for
Yeah.
me, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, it was the Blues Brothers. My dad was like, "Hey, you
Oh, good
don't,
one. Yeah.
you're not allowed to listen to swearing. You don't know what a Nazi is, but you'll love this movie." And like, it changed my life. And then when I was 16,
Yeah.
17 years old, again, I had a friend in high school, and she recommended Clerks, and that really changed my life. So
Yeah.
is there something like that for you? Is there a moment in time you can think of where someone gifted you a film? You're like, wow, this put me on my path. This really changed everything for
Yes. I mean, there's a lot over the years. I think a lot really shaped who I was, who I become as a person, as a performer, everything, a storyteller. But I know when I was changed in the theater watching Jurassic Park.
me.
Um,
Yes.
that changed everything for me. Storytelling on that magnitude with
Mhm.
so many different facets, so flawlessly executed. And then I grew up very sheltered. Like we were Disney kids in my house. And so I
Me
had
too.
never seen any darker, which is great, which is, if you really think about it, super dark material. But surface level, I had never seen a horror movie. I had never, like, I was not allowed to have any of that. But we
Mhm.
went, fortunately, opening night to Jurassic Park. My mom brought me and my little brothers, and we all went to see this nice little family dinosaur movie. And halfway through, my mom was literally pulling on us, trying to get us out of the theater. I was like, "There's no way in hell!" Like in the middle of the eating scene in the car, and I was like, she was trying to cover her eyes. I was like, I was scared in the theater for the first time, and the sensation and the thrill and the immersiveness of that changed my life.
Mhm.
And Steven Spielberg just doing, his iconic thing, which is
Mhm.
really just immersing you in a story and keeping you there. And again, all these years later, we're still impacting new generations. So I knew in some fashion that I needed to be part of that. I just didn't know how to get there, what that meant exactly, but changed in the best way for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned it. You mentioned being scared in the theater, and I think it's really interesting. Like, a lot of people automatically reject horror. They're like, it's not a serious genre. Or, I don't want to get scared. I think horror is the best genre for that because why wouldn't you want to be
Yes.
scared in a sanctioned, safe area as opposed to in real life? So where
Yes.
does the love of horror begin for you? You mentioned, not knowing what indie horror film was when it first started, but you also mentioned
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. So when does that love affair begin for you?
The seed was planted in Jurassic Park for sure. And then I was really proactive about trying to sneak access to horror films. I was very unsuccessful at it. Like I would go to Blockbuster Video, and they had like the Faces of Death stuff there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I could, yeah, right. So I was going like for like the most extreme stuff, but the reason I could like see some of those and not just, you know, whatever the new Halloween was coming out or whatever, was because those were unrated.
Hmm.
So even though I was like, you know, a kid, the guy at the rental place had to give it to me because it wasn't rated R. You weren't allowed to watch, weren't allowed to rent rated R without your parents. So I would watch like these horrible snuff video type things with animals and shit. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm into this, but there's something about it that's still hitting the mark. So I knew I liked horror from an early age, and then when I was of age, I just went crazy. I watched
Mm.
everything. I like buried myself in my dorm room and binged for months, just trying to find
Yeah.
everything I could. And when I got on set, I did my first movie was a horror movie, and then I did like a romantic comedy and then a drama. And I the whole time when I was doing those, despite being on set and acting, which is what I loved, it wasn't quite fulfilling. And I realized that the genre was my medium. I liked the primal elements. I loved the extreme elements. I loved connecting with an audience in their most basic form.
Mm.
And it translated around the world. I involved in the beginning of my career with trauma and
Oh,
Lloyd
wow.
Kaufman. Yeah, so I'm a traumette,
That's
a super
cool.
traumette from that era. Yes, and Lloyd Kaufman, um, he was being honored like a lifetime achievement award at a convention where my first movie played. And so I met him and he took a liking to me immediately and started mentoring me in film in general. So I started touring with him around the country, and he taught me about film as an acting medium. He taught me about it as a filmmaking and producing medium. And so and then even brought me to film markets. And so I got a crash course on
Wow.
sales. So I really learned all about the business side of it as well as performing. Made a lot of great connections, and I realized that these were kind of my people.
Mhm.
There's just a unique bond in horror fans and horror filmmakers. We're a special breed, and I just felt like I didn't need to even explain myself. It was just a connection that I felt to this culture, these people, and for me, a lot of you mentioned horror China doesn't get the respect that it
Mm.
deserves, and so I really spent a lot of time studying that and understanding how I felt about it. And ultimately, I decided that despite certain people in the industry itself not giving it the respect, that it was definitely the best place to be. Because with a changing market, which is constantly changing, you know, I entered at the end of like the VHS era. And we were changing to DVDs, and then those started failing. And so we moved to VOD for the first time. With all of the uproar in this entire very powerful, very elite industry, the consistent was horror. Horror was
Hmm.
always performing, and horror fans and movie fans, they were the most open to looking around and sticking with it. And, you know, part of the fun is diving around on the internet or amongst your friends at conventions to find that hidden gem. You know, here's this
Hmm.
movie that I saw. And, you know, so word of mouth and underground scene was always part of our culture. So when things changed, we were at the forefront of all those changes. You know, one of the first films I did early in my career was one of the first Netflix hits. So it's called Nude Nuns with Big Guns. Can't believe I'm plugging that here, but
Okay, so I just I almost said in the intro because I haven't seen it, but is it the best title for a film ever? Probably. Like
yes, it
you,
really
it tells
is.
you exactly
Yeah,
what you're getting. And again, like, it's so funny.
it delivers.
I
Yes,
import, I import on a regular basis. It is in my cart right now. So like, but
that's so funny.
it's so
Yeah,
hard to
if
get.
you're
Yeah.
looking for nude nuns with big guns, it's not one of those things where it's a fun name and then it's a serious movie. No, it gives you exactly what you think you're gonna get, and then some. You will not be disappointed. But it came out on Netflix when like Netflix wasn't a thing and really being taken
Hmm.
seriously. It stayed at number one for like 4 months,
Wow.
and it helped make Netflix like a place to go to find these crazy underground hidden gems.
Mm.
And at the same time, I did Piranha 3D and a few other things. So I really just got a crash course in every aspect of it. I learned a ton, and I learned that horror. has consistently saved the day.
Hmm.
It has consistently made money, despite having certain elements that the industry claims it needs. It doesn't need A-list stars necessarily. It doesn't need, $50 million budget. It can find its audience and have longevity no matter the size, as long as you understand and respect who you're making it for. They show up for you. And that is something that I love as a professional who works in it. It's invaluable, but also as a fan, like I'm so proud to be part of that.
Mm.
And so I think, and as a filmmaker, as an actor in it, you don't get the credit either, because where else do you have to do, you know, a scene where you're on the brink of death for
Hmm.
12, 14 hours a day for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
The physicality and the mental state that you have to maintain to deliver that. Um, it is some of the hardest work I've ever done, I've ever seen anyone else done, and it is a fact when mainstream performers, or storytellers come in and try to do horror, they don't quite get it. They don't quite
Yeah.
understand what it takes. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of risk. It's not ideal conditions. I'm out there in 10 degrees in a bra and underwear, drenched in the rain machine and blood. And I've got to do this incredible, believable performance or it ruins the movie. And it's not, you break that ride and that immersive experience. It has to be believable in order to do that. So that is really difficult to do as a storyteller. Um, Kind of like comedy, it's the only other medium that invokes a physical response from your viewer.
Yes, I
And
agree.
it,
I'm so glad you
yeah,
mentioned that because they are almost kind of polar opposites of the same spectrum. Like, one is giving
yes,
those exhilarating highs of laughter, and then there's exhilarating, I would still say highs of fear. But again, like it's that sanctioned safe horror. And I'm so glad you mentioned the hypocrisy, feels like a strong word, but the idea of studios coming in thinking they can do horror without, but not committing fully. Like you can smell it a mile
yeah.
away. Like you mentioned Trauma. Toxic Avenger is one of my favorite films of all time. It is
Hi,
dirt
Uncle Lloyd.
cheap. Yeah, sorry. It's dirt. Yeah,
Shout out
it's
to
dirt
Lloyd.
cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Toxie, how impactful was that to so many upcoming storytellers and fans?
And I'll
He
tell you,
was so
I'll say
effective.
this, I've watched Toxic Avenger more than I've watched Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan, and that is not because they're not good films. They are masterpiece films. But if I want to feel good, if I want to have a laugh, if I want
Yeah,
to evoke an emotional response, there's something so much more visceral about like a child's head being crushed, but it's actually a melon, or like a dog getting shot and spaghetti pouring out. Like, I'm going to connect with that, and I think like again, we talked about New Jersey before. You're a Jersey girl, like New Jersey's
yes.
first superhero, like
So
seeing someone like
Jersey.
Velvet.
Toxie's from Jersey too.
Yeah, that's it. Um, so I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's no discredit to those other wonderful films, but you can achieve so much in a short period of time with a couple of bucks and a bucket of blood, as long as you are committed and like you're being. I think being genuine is the real thing. So if you're being
Yes.
genuine, it doesn't matter what the project is,
Because
whether it
people
is.
feel that. Yes. First of all, I just need to mention that I love that you put Schindler's List and Toxic Avenger in the same breath. That's amazing to me.
Honestly, I
But
compare I compare Schindler's to everything. I compared it to The Room. I compare it to Toxic Avenger because it is one of those films.
yes.
Yeah.
But okay, so what all of these films have in common though is they come from that place of authenticity. They know their audience and the execution is flawless. And so that is a phenomenal spectrum that you just pointed out, in that there is not one way to make a movie. There is not one type of audience, and there is not one type of person that only reaches one way. So an audience can feel when you are coming from a real place to tell a real story that you are passionate about, and you know the right way to tell that story. I think that's where a lot of studios get lost in horror, because they don't come up from a place of respect. They think it's easy, they think it's a quick cash grab, and the storytelling reflects that.
Yeah.
And these audiences, which are so loyal and so passionate about their viewing experience, they can see that, they can feel it, they know that you're shortchanging them. And for some reason, no matter how many examples that it could be in their best interest financially to bring people who come from that background to enhance their product, they never seem to learn that lesson. They always want to put their Disney kids in it. They always want to put their entry level bros who need their first film to direct it. And it's just there's just no respect coming from it. So yeah, when you have a system in place, it's going to make a certain amount of money no matter what. But the big hits, the cultural affecting hits, come from people who respect and love the content they're making, and their fans themselves. Fans know what they want. They know what they want to see. And when you have that influence, you get some of the best kinds of cinema in this particular niche. And I think that's where it's underserved, right? Because if you're going to make Schindler's List, there are certain kinds of filmmakers who are best served to deliver that kind of a story. Those kinds of filmmakers already come with respect. When they ask for a full budget, it's expected and understood and believed that it should happen. And so they're provided with the tools and resources for them to perform in their best to tell that kind of story. Whereas I feel like horror is underserved in that aspect. And that's why a lot of bigger titles don't perform the way they could, and why a lot of smaller filmmakers don't get the trajectory that they could. There's a block within that. But fortunately, it's one of the only places where fans are receptive and champion tiny projects and aspiring projects, and they'll still get behind them. And they are responsible for Toxic Avenger, for a lot of people. But Mike Flanagan, who's now one of the masters of horror. I started with him on I don't know, his first movie, Essentia, shot with friends of mine, down the street. It was like a $10,000 movie. Sorry, Mike. Like a $10,000 movie. You know what I mean? And they were doing tiny little films. James Wan, like a bunch of these masters. James Gunn. James Gunn used to.
He's a trauma kid.
He's a trauma kid. I used to tour with him in not really glamorous conditions, with an intern in a Toxie mask and a tutu, talking to aspiring film students about filming. So, we also have a superpower in that we can lift up unique voices within our industry and send them to literally the top of Hollywood. So I think, where we also have some shortcomings, we have some superpowers too. And so I love what I do. I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm fortunate enough to be a fan at the same time. So I love every aspect of it.
I just want to say, I could just listen to you talk about movies all day. You're so passionate.
I think Marty goes on tangents because I just love it so much that I could literally just talk about it all day. I could talk to you about it, with you about it all day, and I just can't get enough. But fortunately, we do have a podcast and a time frame.
Look, here's the thing. My listeners will be sitting there right now. Like, James has said 50 words. Normally I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No. That is the highest compliment I can pay. I'm just sitting there in awe. I'm like, God, tell me more. Tell me about working with James Gunn. Tell me about Lloyd Kaufman. I love all that. We will talk about Black Mass. Before we do, you have been in so much horror. I'm interested. Do horror movies still scare you?
Oh, great question. Yes, they do. But it's a different viewing experience now. I have to really, really, really try to get lost in it because I get distracted. As you can probably tell, I get distracted. I start looking at oh, I love the lighting. Oh, I love the shot choice they did there. Oh, so, I wonder, the pacing on this. So I start automatically producing it in my mind. And so, then I'll miss the immersive experience that you need to do to get lost in the horror movie. So I have to really be in the right mindset. I can't just casually go to the theater or casually put on a show anymore. When I want to just watch whatever, I used to always just put on a horror movie, and now I'll watch the news or something. So I have to be in the right mindset. So. It is scary. Oh, that's a whole another conversation, man. Yeah. What a hot mess we are over here. But if I know there's a movie coming out, or I've read about something that I really want to see, I have to get in the right headspace of it, as a fan again. And so that I can turn off my brain and just really, really watch. Do I still get scared? Yes. Even in-person stuff. scare people for a living, but if I go to like a haunted house, like I'm the wuss who doesn't want to go in. You know what I mean? So yes, I am a fan in all aspects still, despite having worked in them. And you have to be, otherwise, why
Yeah,
are we doing this?
absolutely. All right. Also, follow up question: what is the last film that scared you? Just out of curiosity.
Good question. Um,
I'm putting you on the spot here. Sorry.
yeah, I'm a little jaded. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. But I think what scared me, honestly, was probably Sinister.
Yes. Oh, it's such a scary movie. It's really good. I remember when that movie came out, people were like, especially, we're talking about the kids these days, but it was like they were the paranormal activity crowd or the teenagers, like, oh, Sinister isn't scary. Sinister is chilling. Now that I have a
It's
child,
chilling. It
even
affected me.
scarier. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, I a lot of things like, I really, really love torture porn. That's like a favorite subgenre of mine. But it doesn't scare me. Like I get
Yeah.
giddy about it. I'm like, oh, that was so cool. You know what I mean? And then paranormal never really did it for me. I actually have, it's horrible. I have a lot of paranormal fans and friends. And I worked with the Ghost Hunter guys for a while and the TV show Ghost Hunters, and I made some movies with one of them. And so I was very immersed in that world. So I did see some kind of gnarly things, and I've had some experiences and stuff, but it never really scared me. I kind of just accepted it for what it was. So I think everybody has their unique thing that really gets under their skin and really
Mm-hmm.
affects them. Um, and I can't say there's like one thing or another that did it for me, but Sinister was chilly. It was
Mm,
unsettling for me. Like
yeah.
I had the when I was watching it. By the time we got to the end, I was like,
Yeah.
kids are fucking creepy, dude.
Yeah.
Like
it is a
looking around
bit of
my
a magic
neighborhood,
trick. Yeah.
like which one of you is it? I was like a little, and then then there's some real world stuff like that still affects me to this day. Like oh god, Jeffrey Reddick, freaking with that stupid Mack truck with the poles, and oh my god, and he's gonna kill me. Oh, the Devon Sawa movies with death as
Our
the
foundation.
yes, Final Destination.
Yeah.
Final Destination 2. The freaking truck in
Yes.
Final Destination
Yes.
2. I still to this day will not drive behind any trucks with shit hanging off the back of it. I don't care who it is, what it is. Like I will be on the freeway and I'll be analyzing how tightly it's tied up, and then I decide that I am having an anxiety attack and I move. To this day, still tanning beds freak me out. The same thing. So there's some real
Yeah.
world things like that have left an impact, for sure. I'm still afraid of T-Rexes. And even
Yeah.
though I know, I know they're probably not going to run into me anytime soon, but still. So there's some things, but that's the stuff too, where even though it's like getting to me, I go right back to being giddy about it because I'm like, oh, that was so effective. I think horror borders fear and fun are
Mm,
really that fine little line.
absolutely. It's like, why do people ride roller coasters? It's that same thing. It's that
Yeah.
brief surrender of control. It's so funny you
Yes.
mentioned Final Destination. Like that is such a like talk about cultural touchstones. I think anyone who was like born before 2003 has seen that movie and can absolutely relate to that as well. Like,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah. It's oh God.
uh,
Oh, so well done. So well done, man.
yeah,
Oh,
really well done. Oh, what a great flick.
I think anything
Uh,
that I think personally real world horror is the most disturbing and most upsetting.
mhm.
It's why I chose to do Black Mass, because ultimately at the end of the day, the T-Rex is not going to get you. Possibly Michael Myers is not going to get you, but your neighbor,
Mhm.
what people and what people do to each other, I think is really the most terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think information and educating yourself and awareness is the best way to counteract that. And so full circle it with Black Mass, I saw it as an opportunity to pass along some education as well as hopefully entertain audiences too.
well, let's talk about the Black Mask. That's why we're here, after all. So
But
you've
let's
made a.
we're just gonna talk about movies and get around to it. It's fine.
I mean, that's what the show is all the time.
Yeah.
So you've made a movie. You've given yourself the monumental task of telling a story about Ted Bundy, which has been done before, and
Yes,
I
a
got to
lot.
imagine. a lot, and I've got to imagine like
Yeah.
that task was so it would have been quite overwhelming to me. But as I sat there and watched it, and I've said it a few times now, it is so distinctively different from every other Ted Bundy thing I've seen before. And the very obvious thing that I noticed straight away was choice of camera angles, choice of lighting. And as the film progresses, I realize I'm not seeing this guy's face. I'm never seeing it. And what you chose to
Yeah.
do, and I'm sure I'll give you a chance to talk about it as well, is you're distancing the audience from him. And I think it's such a ballsy and brave move, not because we shouldn't do that, but because everyone is so focused on the glamorization of serial killers, the glamorization of Ted Bundy. You know, he was this handsome guy who probably wasn't even that handsome, let's be honest. But this handsome guy
Thank
who
you.
looked
Thank
that
you.
kind.
Yeah.
Well, that might just be my own insecurities, girls, Stephanie. But we're always competing. But just this guy, like this horrible guy with killing people. But all we know is that he was like, this charming, handsome guy, and we don't know any of their stories. And I think you take the idea of focusing on just 24 hours in his life, and probably the most insane 24 hours of his life, based on what you told me already. I think it's just a magic trick what you do with 90 minutes, let's be honest. So how does this project come about? Why are you interested? Tell us about the Black Mass, because I think it's stunning. I think it is one of the best films I've seen this year easily, so tell me all about it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Um, So for me, I really have always been interested in true crime and serial killers. When I started earlier in my career, I always wanted some source material to pull from. I played a lot of villains, so when you play things that are not human or people that are eccentric, you need to find some kind of inspiration of how am I going to play this. And so the way that I would do it when I would play a villain, whether it was human or otherworldly, is I would read about criminal psychology and the mindset of it. And so I would use that as like a foundation of where to build a character from. So I ended up learning a lot about serial killers and criminal psychology. And from there, I became really fascinated by it. And I worked on a lot of true crime stories throughout my career, both in front of and behind the camera. And then ultimately I made a Charles Manson movie, which performed really, really well. And despite being a very tiny project, it really had some legs and went worldwide because it was the first time, despite everyone knowing the story of the Manson case, that we had shown his childhood, his upbringing, and how he became the person he was. And it humanized him. It made it less of a monster, less of a boogeyman, and really showcased him, his followers, how people of all walks could follow him and join a cult and start killing people. We really showed the how and why. And a lot of people were impacted positively by that. So that kind of stayed with me. And I realized there was a medium and a need for this, despite the fact that infamous true crime cases were being told left and right, constantly rehashed for television, for film. So it's not that we weren't getting enough of the material; it's that it was being told the same way every single
Mm-hmm.
time. And I realized there was so much more story to these stories that people could benefit from, as well as be entertained by. And so as soon as we did Manson and it was successful in its right, I immediately thought about the Ted Bundy case because I just saw so much more to that story than was being showcased. And I started asking people their opinions and thoughts and what they knew about Ted Bundy. And it was always the same few talking points. He was really hot. He was really charming. He was really smart. And it was just like, it was almost talking points written by Ted Bundy himself about himself, as a
Yeah.
narcissist. And I'm like, why is this guy's legacy? Um, and I agree with you. He's not that hot. I'm sorry. Like I would have not have been a Ted Bundy victim because I'd have been like, ew, no, not like, no. But that being said, a lot of people do find him attractive. And I started pitching a different take on it to people. And everyone would kind of be like, oh, it would never go very far because I was like, oh, we got plenty of Ted Bundy stuff. No, it's been done. Even fans were like, no, we don't need any more of those. And I was like, you guys were missing a huge
Mm.
piece. So ultimately, I did a movie called Frost a couple years ago, and that was a true crime movie that happened during the pandemic. Really, really, really gnarly. Those of you who are fans of extreme horror, check it out if you haven't yet. It kind of is still making the rounds in the underground circle. It did really well, and
Oh,
I
cool.
Got a lot of fan and hate mail from that. So so check
Okay.
that one out. Yes. Went to number one on Tubi and everything. We had a great little run. And then, like I said, lots of hate mail, death threats, and then lots of like
Wow.
hardcore horror fans that now follow it. So that did really well. And so the distributor came back and said, okay, make another one. You can do anything you want.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's the dream.
right? Right. No, don't get me wrong. Like, bless you guys. I love you if you're watching this. They gave me like this much money to do it. And I'm like, this much money. But that being said, they were completely hands off, like dream partners in that capacity. They just trusted that I would make a product that worked and deliver it. And so I pitched them on this, and they were kind of like, they didn't really get it, but they were like, I mean, sure, why not go? So so I set out to make the Black Mass, and I you could probably see it in some of the approach, but I was very inspired by Maniac, the
Yes.
remake.
Yes.
Yes.
The Elijah Wood one, which is fantastic. It's so underrated.
Fantastic film. Yes. I didn't do as well when it first came out, but I think history has been kind to it.
Hmm.
And so people are revisiting it, seeing how kind of groundbreaking it really was. And kind of like with Ted Bundy, I saw a lot of potential with that medium that they had touched on in Maniac, but that really hadn't been explored. And I was like, I can use this to establish what I want to do with this particular story. And
I'm
so,
so glad you mentioned it. Sorry, I was so
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
Because
please, please.
I was thinking of me, like I mentioned to you, I said at the start of the show, and I mentioned before, like when I watched it, I immediately jumped to Black Christmas, but I did think of Maniac. I
Yes,
thought of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I'm
yes,
sure people are like, how? But it's like, no, it's so gritty and like you're so detached from the character, which is the perfect setup for a villain. It's why Halloween works because we have no idea who
yes.
Michael Myers. So sorry, I don't mean to step on you, but I just want to say like
No,
that's
you're
exactly the
exactly right. I love
connection
that you
I
brought
made.
up Halloween too, because when I first started putting it together and talking to people about it, they were kind of like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I was like, no, no, it is. And they hadn't thought about the fact that Halloween, which is like this beloved, iconic, you don't see him either. It's also in a state of voyeurism
Mm-hmm.
and over the shoulder. And so you are it's the same formula that people have responded to and enjoyed, and they don't even know that it's happening. They weren't even aware that that was the formula being used. And I thought about it. I was like, true crime movies are always shown almost like documentary style, the very narrative, very disconnected, very just here's what happened narratively at the end. And I said, slasher movies are, no one's really combined true crime and a slasher element. And this very much is. It's a real world slasher. I said, can we find that fine line where it doesn't feel kitschy, like we're commercialized cashing in on the death? Like, can we use it to our benefit in a storytelling element? And with Maniac, I thought, here's an opportunity for you to really be immersed in the world of the serial killer. And the number one thing that everyone knew about and associated with Ted Bundy was his face. And
Yeah.
I said, you're so preoccupied with talking about his face that we missed what he did to these people, which is way more interesting than his fucking face. Like, so I just couldn't understand why nobody had thought about it. And it as I talked about with you before we came on the air, I was bothered by and even offended that despite there was upwards of 100 victims of Ted Bundy's horrible crimes, that everyone in the world knew who he was. Most people could pick him out, recognize him, and yet nobody, like devout true crime fans all the way to the casual viewer, nobody could name a single victim.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them only knew hypotheticals or very PG ratings of his crimes.
Yeah.
And I was pissed that this horrific monster, this person who literally ended up having the FBI profilers coin the term serial killer and study what a serial killer's MOs profiles were. That's how iconically evil this guy was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not his legacy. His legacy is he was like a hot lawyer guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What? So I
Yeah.
said, we need to fix this. And, I was talking to a lot of younger generations, the TikTok audience is coming up. There was a lot of podcasts about true crime. And I said, there's a whole new wave of people with an interest in these kinds of topics, and they are sharing information and educating people below us. And who this person and what this person was is getting lost in the glamorizing of this case. The personification of him as opposed to who and what he was and who and what these people were and what they went through. So I thought if we take away that infamous element, which is his face, we will be able to, as a society, as an audience, focus on the impact that he had. And so that was my choice, to literally step into his shoes. When the Zac Efron movie came out, bless him, I'm a big Zac Efron fan. I think he's a
Yeah.
phenomenal performer. But I thought his portrayal was fantastic. I
Hmm.
thought he was wasted in a very commercialized PG version of Ted Bundy's story, which couldn't be further from the truth. This is the man who committed some of the most horrific, graphic sexual crimes ever. I mean, this is a guy whose go-to was necrophilia. And we've
Yeah.
got like this really beautiful Hallmark story about him. Like, what? And so that was really, and there was so much press around that movie. That's where this guy's identity was being left in this
Hmm.
glamorized PG version of a story. So I knew I wanted to go the polar opposite. A lot of people had a problem with it. They said, these are real people's real lives, and you're rehashing some of the worst moments of it. And, why would you take real victim stories and go that graphic, that hardcore with the elements of the crimes? And I said, I think it's an insult to not.
I agree.
I think it's an insult to water down or tone down or gloss over the horrific things that these incredible people had to go through
Hmm.
and either survive or succumb to. I said, we deserve to have to sit through every horrible second of it, because so did they. And to show the survivors the level of what they survived, that should be their legacy, to see how strong some of these people are.
Yeah.
Especially since to this day, a lot of the victims, that's their lifelong, against their will, that's their lifelong legacy, is Ted
Absolutely.
Bundy's victim. They're forever attached to this person. So I wanted to showcase this particular 24 hours. There's so many things that happened in his case with so many victims over a period of time. That was the other thing I didn't like about the way his stories were told in the past, was you had to gloss over a lot because
Yeah.
there was so much that happened with him. And so I decided to take a 24-hour period so we could really learn about these people, see them as real people, humanize them, the interesting, the mundane, the boring, the family relationships, their hopes and dreams while they're at school, their day-to-day casual life, and how it was impacted and forever changed by this deranged individual who was stalking them. And so in doing it in that formula, it created an opportunity to let these people in and let the humanity of it sink in, both as the aggressor and the victims, and hopefully come away looking at this case and all cases differently. I hope, even on the news, like, here in the States, we have literally every day we have a mass shooting.
Yeah.
And the first question is let's find out about the shooter. And I was hoping that if we start using this, this story and stories like it as a talking point, we can change as society the narrative. Hopefully we want to ask, who's the victim? And we
Yeah.
think about them as a
Yep.
person who just went through something, as opposed to, just writing it off as simple as, oh, a face and a name, and then we don't let it in. So I
Yeah.
want to start changing the way we think about crimes and those affected by it, as a society.
No, absolutely. And I find it so fascinating that the pushback you got was, this is too much, because I think one thing that's really impressive about the film, and one thing that I think is so unusual about a film like this, is how much restraint you show. Because in this film, it'd be so easy just to go into your typical slasher tropes, go into,
Yes.
brutal violence every other scene. But this film is a slow burn, which I like. I
Yes.
like a slow burn. You mentioned the phrase mundane. You mentioned the phrase boring. First of all, it's never boring. I think it's fascinating the whole way through.
Thank you.
But we were talking about this before we started recording. Is there's this very long sequence in the middle of the film where we're literally watching Ted Bundy watch people, and he's sitting at he's standing at the wall. He'll peek in and then go away. And I said to us, like, was that deliberate that I couldn't hear the dialogue properly? Because I got really worried. I'm very anal about films. I need to hear all the dialogue, and it took me a moment to process. Like, oh, it's not important. That is not important. It's not important to him right now, so it's not important to me right now. And you play
Yes.
it very slow, which I really like. And there are some pretty creepy moments. There's one moment I can't remember who the girl is. But there's a girl in a room with her glasses, just talking about like what's going on for the night, and he is inches from her face through the window, and she doesn't even notice. And it's so
Yeah.
unsettling. Like it makes you really kind of hyper aware of who is watching me, who is looking like. And you do play it so down to earth and realistic, I think, which is why it's so unsettling as well. There's only one sequence I could think of that really borderlines gratuitous and borderlines visceral. It's actually a scene you're in, where
Yes.
he's visualizing. It's yeah, like it's the closest thing to like a common slasher trope where like there's a girl getting in a shower, but again, I'm sitting there like, all right, well, I know what's going to happen. Like, this is the obligatory shot in the film where someone gets their top off and it's going to be, all very like sexy and stuff like that, and then we'll move on. But instead, you flip the script on that as well. Like, as
Yeah.
soon as it starts to go where I think it's going, suddenly she's got no head and she's like shoving her fist in her neck. And I actually messaged you last night while I was watching it again. I was like, oh, this is way worse than I thought the first time. It's so upsetting because it's so slow. And again, I compared it to like an Ari Aster film where he just makes you sit and watch. And I like that you're not resorting to jump scares. I like that you're not doing the expected thing because that's what stands out to me. It's like if you had have done the thing that everyone wanted you to do, I don't think I would have watched the film, or I probably wouldn't have had like the reaction that I had. Uh, and is it Andrew? Andrew plays Ted. Is that right? Did I get
Yes.
his name?
Andrew Syke,
But,
who's actually from the UK.
oh
He's
wow, there you
a proper British actor, which I'm so grateful that he was willing to take this on and do it as flawlessly as he did. It's a really, I don't think, I mean, he got a lot of praise for this film, but I don't think he really got the credit he fully deserves because to carry a film and to match the mannerisms without making it a caricature, an authentic thing, and carry a film without fully showing your face
go.
and to do it successfully, I think just shows what an incredible actor he is and how dynamic he is. And we got about 1,000 submissions for this
Wow.
character. Yes, and I ended up auditioning quite a few of them, and there's a lot of people came pretty close. But ultimately, when I saw his tape, it was like the first 5 seconds. I'm like, that's Ted Bundy. He
Yeah.
just nailed it, and he really, because he didn't play it like a slasher movie. He didn't play it like a caricature. He brought such an authenticity to it because he is such a proper actor that I think really made this medium work and work well.
Well, it's not just that you don't see his face; you don't hear him for half the film. It's such a quiet
Yeah.
performance, which I love because that make like it's you have to pay attention. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where if you're doing all the things you expect, then it's very easy for in today's world to pick up your phone or to look to the or to hang up the laundry or whatever it is. But
Right.
because it's such a silent performance, because there's so little to work with, because you have hidden him from us, it just makes it that more enticing. Where I want to know what's happening next. And the thing I loved about both his performance and this film is, as we were talking before, like Ted Bundy was painted as this charming, attractive man. When you
Yeah.
finally get Ted engaging with people, he is awkward. He is
Yes.
unpleasant. He's hard to like. I've been in rooms with people like that. I don't want to say I've been in rooms with a Ted Bundy like person, but you've been around.
Not, yeah.
But I've been in those awkward conversations where they try to make the joke or they try to flirt and doesn't quite come off, and everyone just sits there kind of like, this is very uncomfortable. And like, it's that moment in the bar in particular where it's so effective, and it's actually my least favorite part of the film in as much as the way it makes me feel because it's so incredibly uncomfortable
Yeah.
that it makes me wince more than the attacks later on, and that should be the most horrible thing in the film. But somehow he wrings his performance out, and it's a credit to him and a credit to you as well to just like that. To me is the most unpleasant part of the film. Like, oh, like I know what's going to happen next. It's all because of this, and it's you kind of think about like incel culture and stuff like this, like these days. So,
Yes.
and it feels very
Yeah.
much like that. I'm like, oh, I've seen these like diatribes online. I'm like, oh, I don't like it. Like, I feel it in my teeth. I feel it like in my fingernails. I'm like, oh, this, I know where this is going, and this is that tipping point, and I hate it, but also it's magnificent at the same time. He's such a great find, and that scene in particular, like just pure stroke of genius. I think it's so effective.
Thank you very much.
There's not a question there. It's just a compliment.
No, I appreciate it. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I feel so lucky that he was willing to, again, take this on. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not a good place to feel. He actually was very reclusive after shooting it. I think it kind of messed with him. It's a dark place to go, and to go convincingly. That's something in a lot of films that I've done. I've done some really dark material. I like extreme elements. I've done some dark shit, but but you always have that safety net of it's not real, and you can really cling to that when you're taking on a character. And with this, a lot of my actresses did the same thing. It really affected a lot of people involved, because you couldn't have that safety net of it's just a movie, because we were cinematically reenacting the day. This really happened to these people. These people really said and did these things, felt these things, experienced these things, the good, bad, and ugly. And it did alter the course of their lives and ultimately history. So, it's incredible to think that, everything that happened in this film really did happen in a 24-hour period. That was a crazy 24 hours. A lot of his crimes and the infamous moments throughout this case and throughout society at that time happened over a short amount of time, and it happened like over a course of a year or two. But all of these horrific attacks, the stalking, the voyeuristic attempts, the rapes, the murders, the robberies, this all happened in just 24 hours. The bite marks that he leaves on our first victim, that's the mistake and the imprint that catches him. So after this horrible reign of terror for years, in this massacre, this is the moment where he picks up and gets caught. This is the 24-hour period where the world gets introduced to a serial killer and convicted it. So there was just so much iconic history happening in just this one day. And I was so shocked that we had never focused on it before. I couldn't believe that I was the first one to dive into it, really, and really showcase who these people were, the players in it, and the day that this dude had, which is just ridiculous. So, but because it was so real, it really did, excuse the pun, pack a punch. So, the only thing, as you mentioned, that wasn't real in it was his fantasy sequence, the shower scene. I love a good shower scene. I love stereotypes, and so I knew I wanted to have one stereotypical slasher moment in it, and I didn't want it to be the other girls. So I took it on myself.
I was going to ask you about that. Because I think, obviously you've been in a lot of slash, a lot of horror films, and like part and parcel with slashers ever since the inception of them, since Psycho and Peeping Tom, is look, someone's getting their clothes off. Do you know what I mean? Like that's going to happen. And I was going to ask you, was that a conscious decision to put yourself in there so the other girls didn't have to do it?
Yes. So originally it was written to be the Laurie Lennon character, the main character, but I didn't, even though his motivations, and we are in his shoes for this film, even though his motivations, as innocent as they are, like walking by somebody, chatting someone up, peeping through the window, those are all sexual acts. It's all part of his fantasy. So it is there is a sexual element to it, but I didn't want to sexualize her. I wanted people to see her as she was, which was an innocent, which was a very young girl who was very close to her family, who really was completely unaware. She was a virgin. She was, barely talking to boys at that time. She was just very, very innocent soul. And so I really wanted the audience to have that takeaway from her. And I felt like even if it wasn't reality, if it was Ted's fantasy of her, and he did follow her for a little while, I wanted to separate that. And so my character was also attacked, and nearly died in the attack. But she has been way more vocal In her story, she's done a lot of interviews. She's very, very empowered by identifying with the crimes and taking back her own story. So I felt it was not necessarily appropriate, but the most appropriate to have her be the one that was fantasized about, because I hoped that she would be the most okay with it. And the fantasy sequence, it was to show Ted's state of mind. So that way, when he's peeking in and listening to them talk about, house rules today, um, um, things that actually did happen that day. They really did have that meeting. But it was not really important to him. What he was actually fantasizing about was his own sexual elements. He was just getting a kick from being so close to them and being so in their world, and they weren't aware of it. That was part of the lead up to his fantasy. So the elements you see in the fantasy sequence in the shower scene, despite not being real, those are taken from his own words, his own testimony. On death row, he talks to the FBI about his train of thought within his fantasies, what did it for him, what he liked, what he would imagine when he was performing these voyeuristic acts and stalking his victims. So despite it not actually taking place that day, though that is verbatim what he fantasized about when he was watching these girls.
It's very effective. I think, would I miss it if it wasn't the film? I don't know, but I definitely feel like it's definitely that sudden like wake up moment in the film, because I'm sitting there, and again, you used the word boring before. I don't think it's boring. I'm fascinated just watching him watch people, which I don't know what that says about me. But like I'm watching, observing and taking in the study.
Don't dive too much into that. Just go with it.
But to have that moment, and as I said, like to flip the expectation, because I'm like, all right, well, we know what's going to happen here, and for it to not be that, and again, like it really affected me on repeat viewings. The first time I was like, okay, this is kind of weird and unusual, and like, okay, it's pretty gory. But like the second and third time, I was like, this is, oh, I don't like this. I really don't like
and
this.
So
actually,
we needed to wake up the audience, because I knew not everyone would really respond initially when they saw the bigger picture, or on a repeat watch. I think they would understand the slowdown in that section. But I knew, just we are making a movie, I knew I needed to wake everybody up. And so that was the time that was designed for that moment to be, okay, we've been in Ted's shoes, let's slip into his thoughts for a moment. So that way, that was the turning point in you as the viewer going on about your regular day, and maybe even a little bit of a naughty day, peeking in on sorority girls. And this is the moment when you realize Ted Bundy is a different kind of person than everybody else. This is, and we needed to see, this is not some charming, happy guy. This is what was going on behind the scenes with him while you're talking about how hot he is. That's who Ted Bundy really is. The guy who fantasizes about stalking and killing you and severing your head and fucking your severed throat. That's who Ted Bundy is. That's the legacy he needs to be left with, which is one of the most fucking twisted, excuse me, I don't know if I can curse or anything. Most
of course
twisted,
you can. I'm from Australia. Everyone does. It's all good.
Sometimes they put it on like, certain outlets, and they're like, oh my God, I gotta bleep this.
No.
One of the most fucking twisted monsters, one of the biggest fish out there, and he needs to be tied to that. And so many cinematic or television depictions glossed over those uncomfortable moments. But his thing was horrific brutality, rape, and necrophilia. That is what his jam was. So whatever he said that sounded cute or innocent or intelligent, or he brushed his hair today, no, that's the real person you're looking at, talking to, thinking of, and he needed to be left with that legacy. And I think so many people saw that, and I got a lot of questions about it, like, why did you put that in there? I said, you needed to understand the mindset, you needed to understand the monster. And this was an organic way to show you what was really going on behind the curtain. And then I didn't want the attacks themselves to be so overtly sexualized, despite the fact that they were a sexual crime. I wanted it to be humans experiencing something horrific happening to them, and I wanted the focus to be on that.
No, well, it's definitely, you can definitely see it. Like watching it, it's so effective. And I said to you earlier as well that when I was watching it, it made me feel like I was watching something that I probably shouldn't be watching. Like it has
Yes.
that kind of because I'm not watching it. I know you said you're here to entertain. The goal of this film, or at least the way I receive it, is not. I'm not sitting there like, oh, I can't wait to see what he does next. I'm like, can't wait till this guy gets caught. Like, oh my
Good.
god, like, yeah,
Good.
like it's not entertaining. He's not Jason. He's not Michael. Like he's a human monster, and like
Yeah.
these are the things he did, and it's so effective. Like as I said, I messaged you last night. I was like, this film is stuck with me. Like I'm watching it again, not because I'm interviewing. I'm watching it again because I can't stop thinking about it. And it really like has look. It's stuck in the back of my mind now. I'm constantly thinking about this film and just the way you've portrayed it. It's a fascinating
It has
looking
it has a
project.
lasting effect. I've heard that
Yeah.
consistently. All audiences in a ton of different countries, everyone has kind of little different things that affected them, different moments. So that has been interesting to see what really affected each type of culture and why, each person and why. But the overall consistent feedback has been the film stays with you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's honestly the goal.
Yeah. Um. Okay, so the flick came out earlier this year. I think it's around February, if I remember correctly. How's it been received? Did you get a chance to tour with it? Did it get a wide theatrical release? How did we go? How did it go?
It got a limited theatrical release,
Mhm.
and then it went to physical and VOD. We debuted at number 2 on Amazon, which
Very
is
cool.
huge for a tiny independent film. Word of mouth, people really. It played select festivals. It played a lot of conventions. We did my local screening at LA Comic Cons. We played Comic Cons and festivals. In my festival tour, particularly in Florida, where the film is based. The events took place. I had 2 different screenings there. One was our official world premiere at Popcorn Frights. Shout out to those guys; they were so helpful to us. Um, at that one, I actually had people from that era come who had been sexually assaulted
Wow.
and said that they had repressed it until this film screening, and it all came back to them during it.
Wow.
So that's how I started my tour. And then over the course of the tour, towards the end, I actually had people who were in Tallahassee and in college at the time when Ted Bundy attacks happened. So after the film, they went in tough guy horror films. There was a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
dudes, and there I was trying to I warned everybody before we watched it. I was like, it's upsetting material, it's kind of intense. And they're all, I watch all horror movies. I want, Serbian film, and I got all these, right? And I'm like, okay. And every time I would have people come up to me afterwards or during the Q&A, and they would say, I've seen a lot of shit, but this one hits differently.
Mm-hmm.
And what was most interesting is the people who were there during that time, um, who started all tough guy, and then at the end were so visibly shook and affected. And I had people come up to do the Q&A with me afterwards and talk about the day this happened and the day after it
Wow.
happened, and how society was not the same the following day. Everything had changed for them. They
Yeah.
locked their doors for the first time. They pulled kids out of school.
Mm.
People didn't want to go out. Everyone walked. If they walked at all, they walked in twos, threes, fours. They said overnight the whole world changed.
Yeah.
And they said, and they hadn't thought about it in decades until this film. And then the most impactful Q&A afterwards, I actually had somebody from this sorority in the
Wow.
audience who was there the night these girls were attacked.
Goodness.
And she said that she had been hearing about the film for the full year when I was touring with this. This was towards the end of my tour. And she said she had wanted to see it for a long time, but she didn't know if she could handle it.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, and she worked on it. And then ultimately, she did watch it, and she came to me afterwards privately and talked about the experience of it, the experience after it, how her life still to this day is changed because of it. and she'll never live it down. She'll die with it. And that she was not happy when she heard the film was being made, but after seeing it, and I'll never forget it, she said she felt seen, and felt validated. And she commended the film for being the first time that they were not treated as an afterthought in their own crime, in their own attack.
Yeah.
So it's things like that which really make it worthwhile to me. And people who, just regular people who said they have kids in college now. They called them after watching the movie and told them warning signs to look out for. People who are now taking extra precautions. They're looking in their back seat in their cars. They're locking their doors. They're checking in when they leave places and when they come back. They're not being as nice to strangers who want to ride. You know what I mean? So it's serving as an educational, beneficial tool, because we're having these conversations that we're really uncomfortable to have, and making it aware that these kinds of people exist, and arming ourselves with that information so we can not let it happen anymore. So as dark and horrible as it is in that moment of history, there's so much good, so much healing, so much moving forward that can happen from taking the opportunity to have conversations like this. And this film, whether it's your favorite, whether it's not, whether it's somewhere in between, it opened the door to be able to do that. And so for me, it's been very, very successful. Reviewers have been incredibly kind to it. I'm so grateful for that. A lot of people have helped me talk about it, continuing to talk about it, such as yourself. And we have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, something I've never had as a film. I had really good ratings before. I never had that. Because I think
it's you and Paddington too. I think they're the only two with 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, I think people see what I was attempting to do with it. I think they're being a little kinder. It is my debut, but they see the impact. They see the motivation in it, and it's being very, very, very well received. And I'm so grateful that people have sought it out, are continuing to seek it out, continuing to talk about it. A lot of, especially smaller films, they come out, they have their moment or two when they release it, and they kind of get buried a little bit. This one is trucking along. It's hanging in there. And so as much as I love to see that as a filmmaker, for me, the most important thing was to just have an excuse to have these conversations. So the positive effects of the film and the legacy surrounding the people impacted stays in our culture. And that's what replaces what was there before. So I love the opportunity to continue to chat it. And hopefully the film will have some longevity as long as it's continuing to contribute to those.
I think it's just such a surprising film. I don't know how other audiences have perceived it, but again, and this is not discrediting anything you've done before, but your body of work. Growing up a trauma kid, working on movies like Piranha, and movies like what was this one called, Party Buster or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Doing these big kind of party horror films that are people are paying for blood and guts, and that's what they're going to say. To see something like this, and I keep using the word restrained, but it's so restrained, it's so meticulous. You said it's got you said they didn't give you a lot of money. It looks astonishing. I can't believe how good it looks. For a film, I've got no idea what the budget. I knew it was probably pretty low, but if you compare it to some of my favorite debut films like Clerks or Reservoir Dogs and stuff like that, they look like the money that they've used. Yours looks like an expensive film. It looks, you can see it's the way you use the camera, the way you frame it, definitely.
Yeah, so we had that work in our favor. So we talked technically about it for a minute.
Yeah, go for it.
We did have a lot of authentic props. So a lot of the things you see in the movie are from that era. They're real. They're not, recreations or anything. So we're really lucky to have access to a lot of vintage pieces here. And what worked in our favor, because we had a tiny budget, was the medium of the film, where we really are only seeing cinematically what Bundy's looking at or focusing on. So because I had such a small budget, if we had to shoot it like a stereotypical film where we had to build the entire world and then film all over it, it would have cost significantly more money to make it and have it be believable. Like in a lot of horror movies, you can kind of make it almost cheesy or corny or fun or light because or skimp out on certain things because the suspension of disbelief it's a fun movie. But this was grounded in reality and it had to be in order for it to work. So we didn't have the luxury of like, close enough, we really had to get it right. But because we were only focusing on little pieces of his vision, of his focus, I really only had to dress certain pieces. So like there's some behind the scenes photos where you'll see like, the rooms or the cars or whatever are totally dressed. And then if you pan slightly to the right or the left, it's like bare bones. So, and another aspect, it was kind of funny, but yeah, so we really, focused on what we were going to see and not see. And we really only created the elements of the world for that very narrow vision. And fortunately, it worked in what we were trying to do. We never flipped the world. If you watch it, it's only a 180 perspective, whereas in a regular movie, you would see the other direction. We never see the other direction. We only see what he's looking at. And so, again, that saved significant dressing needs. And it also allowed us, we shot this in 5 days.
Wow, I was going to ask you that. That's
Yes.
Jeez, that is a quick movie.
It's not recommended. Do not recommend it.
No.
Like I said, I had a very low budget, so we had to move. But fortunately, my team was like on board for it, and we shot it really not quite in sequence, but we shot it as it was playing out because it's lots of long takes, lots of so it lent itself cinematically to that format. And it literally got rid of 50% of a shooting schedule because we're not flipping around to see the other side of things. So everything was able to move really, really quick. Still not recommended. I don't recommend doing a feature in 5 days. But we were able to do it. We were able to get what we needed for it. And so it was kind of like unlearning everything that I had learned about filmmaking in order to turn it on its head. My crew had a hard time. Like they were really excited about doing something different. And this particular project, they really, really were into it. But the instincts to, light something a little different or like up the quality here or, they were all younger too. They were like, like 20s and early 30s. So they were used to really, really super slick, high def, and then, really cinematic lighting. And I really wanted to capture the feel of the 70s. So everything looked different, felt different. And then when you throw in only filming the 180, it really like they struggled with it a little bit because it just goes against everything that you're supposed to do as a filmmaker. So it was very outside the box, but I really, as much as you can have a good time with this kind of material, I really did enjoy the process of it. It was a unique challenge.
It's a unique film. Look, I haven't seen anything like it. You know what I mean? Like I haven't seen anything like it. I've said it a few times today. You flip the script, you do things differently, and I think it makes it stand out. Like this is, and hopefully, people listening to this will go and see it. Like we urge you to. This is not a film that's coming out. It is out. Go and watch it. It's on Prime. It is on physical. You won't see anything else like this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's very unique and wholly unique. And again, like what a monumental effort on your first time out directing. Like,
thank you.
It's stunning. You know what I mean?
I really feel like as a storyteller, there's so much out there now that if you're going to go through all that it takes to make a movie, there needs to be a good reason. Don't make the same movie over and over and over and over again, the same way. Like if you're going to contribute something to our great genre, think about you as a fan, what you would want to see. Think about what hasn't been done before. Our medium is such a cool opportunity to push boundaries, try things, experiment, create. It's so open and so willing to see that, to respond to it, to give it a shot, more so than any other spot in our industry. And so I think if you don't take advantage of trying something, you're missing out, and fans are missing out. Like we need to think more outside the box, and we need to create different kinds of content.
Absolutely. And this film takes big swings and
Yes.
hits just I think it hits pretty much all of them actually. Like I can't really think of a part of the film where I'm like, yeah, like I wouldn't do that. Like I think it hits like every leap you take, I think lands. It's again, people go and see this film, go and watch it. Like you can check it out on Amazon Prime. You can buy it physical. It's a cult film in the making, but it shouldn't even be cult status. This should just be a film that people see. Do you know what I mean? Like
Thank you.
cult film is a nice title, but people should just go and see it. Like
It is. Thank
it's
you.
such an important story. Devanny, you have been a fantastic guest. This has been so much fun
Oh,
hearing all about the
thank
film
you.
and hearing you talk about films. Before we jump out here, let's have a little bit of fun. Not that we haven't been having fun, we're having a great time. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We'll do a bit of a rapid fire round and then I'll let you get back to your very busy schedule because I know you've got meetings and all sorts of exciting things.
Yeah.
Um, so what we like to do at the end of each episode is just go through a rapid fire question round just about your movie watching habits in general, and then we'll
Okay.
say goodbye. So Devanny, what was the last movie you watched?
Last movie I watched. Um, I what? That's not a fun answer. I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith because we're in development on an action movie right now. So
Oh,
I
cool.
was watched. Yeah, there was a specific moment in there that I wanted to watch for a camera angle, and so I watched that. But it's not a really fun answer. What else is it? Oh, I saw Beetlejuice.
Oh, how's
I went to the theater.
Beetlejuice?
Yes, I went to the theater and watched Beetlejuice last week. So that one, I had some problems with it, but
Mhm.
overall, I had a fuck ton of fun. I really, really like just turn off your brain and just have some nostalgia and like jam out to the music and look at all the fun things in the background. High
Yep.
five, Bob, and yeah, it's just don't analyze too much of it. Just enjoy it for what it is and have fun. It's a great way to set up the Halloween season, I think.
Nice. It's receiving a lot of love. I look for as like a 40 years later sequel, almost 40 years later sequel. I was tentative, but people are loving it, so that's good. I'm glad like Tim Burton's getting
Yeah,
some
you
love.
have to
Yeah.
go in with reasonable expectations. It's got a lot of subplots. Most of
Mm.
them don't need to be there. It's trying to find its footing. It doesn't quite get there. There are some problems with it. But that being said, it's Beetlejuice. It
Mhm.
does give you the elements that you're wanting and needing and enjoying. So just go for those, stay for those. Don't bring your Kersey cat. Just turn off your brain and have fun. And you will. There's enough there to definitely have fun with for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. And now
Yeah.
what's been on your watch list forever? What's film you know you should watch it? You keep meaning to watch it. You just keep putting it off. Everyone's got one.
Um, the short film Terrifier.
Oh, okay. The All Hallows Eve one, is that the one
The
you?
art, yes, exactly. I
Yeah.
keep getting told I need to check out the origins, and I've been meaning to do it. I haven't done it yet. I think it's on Tubi here. I'm gonna check that out. I'm a big again. I love the torture porn elements,
Mm.
and we're getting ready for Terrifier 3 to come out here.
Yeah.
So I want to get my Arthur Clown origin story out of the way before that happens.
It's pretty messed up. Like they just released it on Blu-ray for the first time in Australia earlier this year, and they
Oh
packaged
yeah,
it
okay.
with the short film. And like I thought two did some messed up stuff, but even like they're all messed up. There's some weird stuff in those films, but it's you don't watch
I
the
think those guys
short
are
film.
brilliant, man. Oh
Yeah,
man,
I
David
haven't
Howard
seen.
Thornton, you're a fucking icon, dude. It's so
Yeah, he's
cool.
great. And
Yeah.
yeah, that you don't watch the short and be like, oh, I wonder where Art got it from. It makes sense. You're like, yep, this is definitely Art the Clown. Nice one. All right, bit of an interesting question. Are you a movie crier, Deb? Do you like a cry
My,
in the
my,
movies?
yeah, it's so annoying. I am like I I'm so well. I'm someone that you could probably tell I wear a lot of emotions like on my sleeve. I used to try
Yeah.
to like bury it down more and just release it when I was acting, but um over the course of getting older, I really bring it more close to the
Mm,
surface and I feel more confident in it and being more of an emotional person. That being said, I'm a little more guarded, like human to human.
yeah.
but but with movies, I just let it all out.
Hmm.
Like, the drop of a hat, I'm feeling it. But again, I feel like as a movie fan in general, I think you're there for that
Hmm.
experience to be affected. And so I don't want to shortchange myself as a movie viewer by not letting a chance to let things in. So I do. I'm like an all or nothing person, so I just let the floodgates open, and yeah,
I'm the same. I
yeah,
actually the only place I do cry is the movies. I
right,
cried when
right,
my
exactly,
yeah
yeah.
yeah I cried when my daughter
Well
was born,
said.
but other than that, just the movies. So yeah, that's about it.
Same. 100%. See, you and I are so similar. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yes.
We're almost done. Definitely, is there an actor or actress that you'll follow anywhere? Doesn't matter what the project is. You see them on the list, you're gonna go watch it.
Margot Robbie.
Nice. I'll take some
She was,
pride there. Australian. So.
yeah. Aside from being smoking hot, man.
Mhm.
I just think she's so dynamic with incredible range. And she not only chooses great roles, but she also is a producer as well. So
Yeah.
she very early in her career, she was like 24 or something when she first started
Yeah.
producing, because she was, being as beautiful as she was, she got offered a certain type of role a lot. And then after Wolf of Wall Street, you could really see she can do a lot as
Hmm.
well as an actress. And there just wasn't a lot of really, really meaty, interesting roles for her to take on. So she started creating them. And I'm
Hmm.
so inspired by that. She is making the stories that she wants to tell as a
Yeah.
performer and as a storyteller herself. And I think we're benefiting a lot as an industry, because of her star power to get things greenlit and
Hmm.
her ability to tell a really interesting story. So I absolutely will always support anything that I see her attached to, because I think it will be well worth the effort.
Nice one. That's probably my favorite answer I've had for that question. Actually, I really like
Oh,
the thought process behind that. Yeah, it's really cool. Most people are like, "Oh, I like this guy. They're cool," and I'm like, "Okay, no worries." But I like the thought behind it. And again, seeing it from your point of view, being behind the camera, being in the industry, like you can see why someone might follow a particular actor or actress. I like that.
yeah.
We don't like to be negative on this show. Clearly, very positive people. But what is the worst film you've ever seen?
Um, there's two, and I don't know if I should say them because like I'm always afraid. I'm always afraid someone's gonna like definitely run across it.
We can skip this
Um,
question. We can protect you. We can put
Yeah,
the
there's two. There's one. I have a film playing festivals in the States right now called Terabella.
okay.
And we just premiered at a festival, and there was a movie that played alongside it. That was definitely, I've never left the theater angry
Oh wow.
before. I was pissed
Wow. Okay.
um because it was just such a bad. I was so excited to see it. I went in and literally nothing happened. And I don't mean
Mm,
like it was a slow burn. I mean literally nothing happened, and it was building toward, or kind of gently hinting that maybe something was going to happen, and then like literally a few seconds before something was maybe going to happen, after watching a whole movie with nothing happening, and then it just turned off.
wow. Okay. That's definitely not a movie, then, is it?
I was so visibly, the festival director actually watched it, and he watched me come out so pissed off. And then he actually gave it an award for evoking a response so aggressive out of me. Because I was just felt so shortchanged as a
Mm,
viewer. And I don't know why you would set out to piss off your audience, but I guess maybe in that aspect it was an effective film. But I was really frustrated that I was led on and let down as a viewer. And there was a similar one years and years ago, but it was made by somebody who works in our industry. Uh, and and he's very proud of it. So I'm not going to call that one out. But again, it was a lot of, they made a feature length film out of probably a short film's worth of
okay.
footage,
Hmm.
and then just like looped it a couple of times.
Okay. Interesting. Um, all right. We'll leave it there. We won't get you in trouble. Um,
So again, for me, everything else, I've seen some good, bad, and ugly
mhm,
films, but I can always find something positive to say about it. Making films is difficult. It's hard
mhm.
work. It's personal. Um, and as long as you set out with an intention and you respect the audience that you're making it for, there is always something good that can be said about your art.
I I agree 100%. There are no bad films. If every film is someone's favorite film, there can't be bad films. Just don't be
Yeah.
lazy, don't be boring.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Be
excellent. All
intentional.
right,
Yeah.
that's it. All right, last one on the rank, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
We don't have to get too precious, but what's one movie you think they should never ever remake? Just don't touch
Man, I feel like half the movies that got remade could have that.
it.
Um, I don't know. Gone with the Wind.
Nice one, classic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I think don't touch that.
I think it'd be very tough
How-
to remake that film these
What
days,
about you?
anyway.
What's yours? What's your pick?
Oh boy. What a I wasn't expecting this to flip. My safe answer is Back to the Future, but let's be honest, you can remake that one. That's fine. I try to be too
You
precious.
can't remake that one. No, that would. Who wants to see a remake of that? Nobody wants that. That would be like so aggressively pushed
Yeah,
back on, even if it was good. Like that's like
yeah.
setting up to fail. Nobody wants that.
I'm gonna be cheeky. I'm gonna say the Black Mass. No one's allowed to remake that one. Uh,
Touche. Thank you very much. I appreciate
I,
that.
I will say this: I have a very unpopular opinion on remakes. I think remakes are actually very important to our industry, even though they can be seemed lazy. I think that remakes sometimes can help bring that money to. I know you were talking before about like, oh, don't be lazy, go into it. But if there's a dip when you get butts in seats, remakes can save the day. And with
Yeah.
foreign films, I know people don't like American remakes of foreign films. If it wasn't for American remakes, I might never have ventured into international cinema. So please keep remaking them because if you
Oh,
get one person to jump from the remake to the original, I think it's a job well done. So I do like an
see,
international remake.
I agree with you on that. I don't think that we should be against remakes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're being overused, and I think they're
Mm-hmm.
being used lazily and
Yeah.
as just a quick cash grab. And kind of like anything else we talked about earlier in our conversation, if it's lazy or a quickie to get some money, it shouldn't be done. If you have something where you think, oh, I could try this element with it, or I could bring this to a new audience, or I have an idea on how to build upon what the original creator did, I think remakes can be fun and interesting and
Mm-hmm.
even a necessity for sure.
Yeah.
They just need to be done for the right reasons. That's all.
100% agreed. Uh, Definitely, you've been incredible. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. So it's lovely talking to
So fun
you.
to talk to you. Yeah. I had a great
Uh,
time with this.
you're obviously open invitation. You're welcome back any single time whenever you're not working, which is pretty rare. You're a pretty busy person. Tell everyone again where they can find it. The flick, it's on digital, it's on physical. Whereabouts can we find that one?
Yes. So I don't know where you guys are, where it's at yet, but it is out on Blu-ray, on DVD, is on a lot of VOD platforms. It is being sold to new territories every quarter, so please keep checking back. Request it.
Mm-hmm.
People, believe it or not, like you guys actually do have a say in these kinds of things, whether it's my movie or anyone's movie. If you want it in your territory, you don't have it yet. I know it's kind of tempting to just like look for it or import it or torrent it, God forbid. I know a lot of people feel like that's a great way to get access to stuff that you don't have. But if you could just hang in there a little bit and just request it from the powers that be, they do listen. And sometimes they make purchase orders where they maybe were on the fence or weren't going to because they see there's a demand for it. And you would be surprised how much power you guys have to get the material you want if you're vocal about it and you'll throw your fan dollars at it. They do listen and they do give you what you want. So if it's not there in your territory yet, please, please, please request it. Again, that's for any film that you want to see in your area. And if you are in one of the territories where it's at, they don't tell us as filmmakers where they're sending it or what medium. So if you're like, a lot of times I find out where it is. Like if something is on TV, someone will send me a screenshot. I'm very active on social media, so if you do see it in your area, you find it in your territory or on your favorite platform, send it to me so I can help share the word about it to other people, and also I really appreciate it. So thank you for having me on. This has been so
uh,
much fun to talk to you. And I look forward to maybe coming back again for my next one when it's ready.
Definitely, very excited. And quickly before we go, where can they find you?
Yeah.
Because you are active on social media. If it wasn't for you
Yeah.
promoting the Black Mass, I wouldn't have heard of it. So obviously they
Oh,
need to,
yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, there wasn't a lot of again. Bless the distributors. They took a chance on something without really being sure what they were doing or why, and so I will always be eternally grateful for them. That being said, they're primarily a music company.
Okay.
Film was kind of a bonus for them, so a lot of the promotion was really on me and my team, and but we took that opportunity and they're still enjoying it. I love, again, this is a talking point kind of film. So I love kind of heading up that. But yeah, I'm on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and occasionally TikTok. I'm not very active on there. But it's all at my name, DevannyPinn, Devanny Pinn. And hit me up. I love chatting film with everybody on there. That's how I got to be here right now with you is we were
Yeah.
chatting online. So yes, hit me up if you've seen The Black Mass or any of my other films. You want to talk about them. If you have a favorite film that you like and you think that I should watch it, I'm also a fan. So so get in touch, stay in touch, and I look forward to coming back.
Excellent. Thank you again to Devanny. Go and support her. Go check out The Black Mass. You won't be disappointed. It's a great flick.
Thank
And
you.
yes, hopefully we'll have her back very soon. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can check me out on all my socials. You know where they are. We're not going to make this about me. And as I say every week on this show, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week. I almost ended the meeting.